a lot of other organizations like to give the shine to the Power Four programs, and so we just like to highlight not only smaller schools in Division One, but we also do Division Two, Division Three, NAI, and JUCO as well. So we're excited to have you with us tonight, and again to hear about your vision and what excites you about being in Greeley, Colorado.
Oh yeah, and I'm excited to be on.
Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, howdy and aloha. Welcome to another episode of Airey Bros Radio. We are here, you were there, and we appreciate you tuning in. Tonight we're stepping back on the mat to go belly to belly with a coach who's lived greatness on the mat and is now building it in the corner. Teyon Ware, the new head coach at the University of Northern Colorado. You know the Bears are our favorite Division I program. Y'all know we're doing this show for the younger versions of ourselves and for the athletes, coaches, and families still searching for the right fit. If you're looking for a college that wins and develops top-notch humans, this is where your journey starts. But before we get rolling, y'all know the drill. Do me a favor, hammer that like button for me. Drop a comment. Every view, review, and share helps us grow and give back to the sports we love. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. And as always, this episode is fueled by Black Sheep Endurance Coaching. Now, on to a couple highlights for Coach Ware. Most recently, he helped lead his alma mater, the University of Oklahoma, to its best finish in 8 years. He mentored 33 national qualifiers and multiple Big 12 champions at the University of Wyoming. He's also had coaching stints at SUNY Binghamton, and now he's the head coach at University of Northern Colorado. As a wrestler, he was a two-time NCAA champion, a three-time NCAA finalist, and a four-time All-American at the University of Oklahoma. Boomer Sooner. He's a four-time Oklahoma State champ with a 132-0 record. He was also a star on the gridiron, and he was a 2011 World Team member and a Pan Am Games bronze medalist. Without further ado, it is an honor and pleasure to have you joining us this evening, Coach Ware. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. But before we get too far into it, anything you got going on in Greeley, anything you want to put out on the socials, the team socials, your socials, anything, the floor is yours.
Well, I'm just getting situated as a coach. I'm in the dorms, so I haven't been in dorms about 20 plus years. So the good thing about it is now my incoming freshmen don't know I'm right across the hall from them, so I can pop up and check up on them when I need to and everything like that. But other than that, I'm getting to know other staff members and everything like that. And we're going to be putting out. I actually meet with them tomorrow. My staff, my administration, of doing a greeting meet. And so the moment I do, we set up a date for that. I'm going to get that out ASAP. And so and if I can use you guys, that'd be helpful and everything like that, because social media is my least favorite thing to run to, but I know in this day and age this is what you got to use. And so but other than that, yes, no, I'm excited. It's good to get out here. I didn't think I ever make the drive again down I-70 to 25 ever again, but
here we are.
Yes.
Awesome. So, Coach, one of the things we like to do before we get into it, we like to create through lines for our fans so they know how we came to know about our guests. Obviously, we've known about you for a very long time, watching the NCAAs and all those things. I actually lived in Oklahoma City and got to take in a few matches, OU. This was after your time. But in our travels, Jimmy and I travel around a lot. Like I said, we lived in Colorado for a bit. We came to become friends with a man by the name of Wade Kilgore. And he actually would come to some of the UNC matches with us as well. And he would always talk about his time training with you. So that's our through line for you.
Oh yeah, no, we got some history together. He used to come up from Deer Creek and go with us and battle with us. So I last time I saw Wade was actually at UNC when Wyoming dual UNC years back. And so
yeah, we were there.
And so I saw him and gave him a hug, man. And I spotted him. He didn't think I remember. Oh, I remember. I remember my old teammates. So it was good. It was good seeing him. And hey, it's good to remember. I forgot he is out this way.
Yeah. And I'm sure you'll be seeing him a little bit more now that you're running the ship up there. It's not too far from Denver. It's an easy drive to come check out and support the Bears. So I'm excited. So, Coach, you mentioned you're staying in the dorms right now. How has the transition been going, moving from Norman up to Greeley?
It's going well. Obviously, family. Family is the key thing. Making sure. So right now we're doing what's best. With family. Leaving my wife and kids. In Oklahoma and everything because I got to get the ground running. Getting out and about and recruiting and everything like that. So we had to come with the tough decision. I can bring them out here, I'll still be gone. With 4 kids, you can't leave a wife. You got to rather leave her, in our comfort zone with family and friends to help than bring her up here. And, you got that just yet. But the deal is getting in, got my stuff in, and now, just got back from Fargo, speaking to recruits. And then, the key thing now is getting back to the alumni and donors and seeing, present to them my goals of what I want, what I need for UNC for us to be successful to get some top guys here.
So what do you want and what do you need to get to where you want to be as a head coach and take the Bears to where you think they can be?
As far as what we all need money. We need money. At the end of the day, money talks. That's one thing I've learned. But at the end of the day, you don't want guys, just don't want people speaking on the outside. You're going to have those. You're going to listen more to people that are in the trenches with you. And from what is, after meeting a few of the alumni / donors, they seem like Troy had a good, hand and, having people down in the trenches with, which is good because, Troy, I never heard of Northern Colorado until Troy took it in 2014. And then, then we slowly started, we saw he was at the bottom and he slowly started to work his way up, man. He got the wheels going and that's the deal. I'm excited to get the opportunity to do that, but obviously, once again, it's about getting the tough recruits and to get the tough recruits. They want money.
Coach, so you brought up that your family is in Oklahoma. You grew up in Oklahoma. You were doing a great job as an assistant coach at the university. What was in your mindset of taking over UNC Bears when you were at home and everything seems like it was doing pretty good?
To be honest with you, I'll put my name out there. I'll put my resumes out there. I was actually looking into, starting my own club. To be honest with you, I was like, man, I want to reach the youth. I got to get to the youth. I want to help. Help especially inner city kids that didn't have much like myself. And so my eyes have been gunning towards that. But everybody says behind every successful man, you have a successful woman, that pushes. And so my wife actually put in my resume. And so she put it in. And so, the funny thing about it is, I said, I'm not losing no sleep over. It's meant to be. It's meant to be. And so, little I know, they hit me when I least expected. And that was the day we just got finished with camp out there at OU. They hit me up and I was like, oh, I told AD, I don't know why you're calling me now, because in the wrestling world, what's going on. And I couldn't lie. I felt a little offended, but, and I shared it with them. But at the end of the day, we got to have real conversations and we got to talking. And at the end of the day, we were on the same page of, what I would want in a program, for my administration, the goals and everything like that. And one thing led to the next. Talked on Friday, flew me out Monday, gave me the job, that
Coach, what about the Bears? What about UNC? Gets you fired up? What excites you?
Man, I'm excited, one, because yes, we are starting at the bottom. But Troy, like I said before, Troy was getting these guys to where teams were having respect for him. Troy, at first, Troy, he knows. UNC was just a bicycle. You got him on the schedule, get your guys matches in, to get your wins in. But these last 4 years, 4 or 5 years, you had to put some respect on UNC. You had to think twice. And to be honest with you, I was starting to see big schools duck out on it because they knew they were coming. And so, and once again, you saw a guy take a team that was, wasn't nobody was scared of, to where people were actually thinking, "Ooh, do we want to do with these guys?" And so I was like, I respected that. And so I was like, man, we can have the same opportunity. This transfer portal and everything like that. Guys are coming here and there, but the good thing about it is, yeah, we're still in the second toughest conference, but obviously, you got a shot and an opportunity. When you're out here in Greeley, we're out, 15 hour and a half away from the training center. You can get guys to come up and train, so which is a good opportunity. Another thing I tell guys, hey, 45 minutes from the airport, so you need to get home, boom, get there, you go, you can fly direct to a lot of places. So I'm excited, just get an opportunity to finally get in the door and, have an impact on guys. I tell guys, I don't want to coach, I want to mentor. That's the difference to me in that. And so getting that opportunity, yeah, we're gonna win and lose, but I see people, that depends who they are. Because I see a lot of coaches winning on the mat, on the field, on the courts, but they're losing in life. So at the end of the day, my goal is to show these young men how, to win in life. And good thing my administration sees it, and they're gonna give it to me.
What's your approach to recruiting? I mean, you were in Wyoming.
Mm-hmm.
Utah Valley's got some good things going on. That mountain region, I think, is slept on a little bit. It doesn't necessarily get the credit as a wrestling hotbed. I mean, maybe not like like Oklahoma. We're from New Jersey, where people think of those as like top 5 wrestling states. But there's a lot of good wrestlers in those mountain regions. What's going to be your approach to recruiting? Are you going to try to get into those battles with Coach Cody and
Of
um,
course, of course, you're gonna get into those battles. I mean, at the end of the day, obviously, this is where families go vacation at, is in Colorado. A lot of families come out this way. Everybody comes skiing up here. So once again, it's easy to get in and out up here. And so that's one thing I like about Greeley. I'm like, yes, the campus is small. Football team, might not be known for a football team, but another thing I like that wrestling is, the top sport there. And so, which is what I like. And so want to keep it. Yeah. Not that I want the other sports to fail. No, the deal is, when you think of UNCO, you always thought of the Bears. And so that's one thing, I want to keep going at Troy starting.
Coach, you mentioned building from the ground up. Before you took the job, there were some All-Americans that
Mhm.
had transferred out. What coaches are staying with you? I know at one point when Andrew signed his NIL that at some point he was supposed to help out. That was part of the contract. He was going to be part of the staff when he graduated. Is that still in play?
Yes. So Andrew, technician, he's actually been running practice this past week while that Coach Hall, Earl Hall, he will stay on staff. And now we just opened it up, looking more for a bigger size coach. We opened it up, and I believe today. And so I know guys are been calling and texting what they want to do, of applying and everything like that. So, but Coach Hall and then Andrew will be around to help. This obviously is a legend here. He's a legend here. He's put in the time. So if anybody that's going to testify, it's him. He's going to testify, you know, with his faults. He's going to testify with his success. And so that until, obviously I get to know the area because I mean, one thing I don't like to do to guys, and I know you may have to an extent, the thing I loved about Oklahoma is I didn't have to sell, testify because I walked through those halls. I was in that, man. I was in that locker room, and so now, with Wyoming, Binghamton, and here, you somewhat got to sell, but we're not going to sell what our staff can do, and at the end of the day, having a good staff, good people that treat people right, that's, that's what we're going to be about. The core, our core is going to be good, and we don't need to lie to you. No, we're going to tell you how it is and what we expect from you. And so, some that scares guys, and the few that get it, those are the ones we want.
So, Coach, we always talk about the CEO role of being a college wrestling coach. You're running a business. It's not just the X's and O's on the mat. You mentioned the donors. You mentioned fundraising, getting the money so you can get the horses in the stable.
Mm-hmm.
During your time as an assistant coach, I'm sure you were making a little list of, if I was the head coach, I'd be doing it like this. I'd be doing it like this. Now you're a head coach. What do you want to implement, and how do you want to run your program?
I mean, like I've said before, it's about doing the small things right, and being a walking example. Yeah, having the core. Your guys, you got good leaders, and then you got people, to me, that are just out walking around. Nobody's really following. They're just a person that's been given charge. And my deal is, one, being a good person. Let your yes be yes, and let your no's be no's. Don't politic. And I know sometimes everybody like, you got to politic in this game, but no, a parent, and the parents and the young man are trusting you, to help them get to where they want to be. Now I understand, you can't be. It's hard to babysit grown men, and the deal is all we can do is, lead you to water. Of course, we can't make you drink. It's up to you if you want to decide to do that. But we're gonna let our yeses be yeses and nos be no, and what we expect out of it from the get go. So nobody can say, because you hear athletes say, "Oh, coach screwed me up." I never heard a coach that wants to screw over his athletes. Never, and every coach wants his athletes to succeed, because every coach depends on that athlete, because that's where their success comes from. So it's just, once again, you're doing the small things right, and laying that foundation out, letting them know what we expect from them, but we expect those things from themselves as well.
Coach, I heard you talk on another podcast about your wrestling career, and a lot of it you identified as a wrestler, and when there was time to get away from that, that was hard because that was your identity. Is it possible at the Division I level for athletes to be great wrestlers and still have an identity outside of wrestling? And how do you foster that?
I tell you, it's tough. It's very tough, because we preach, let wrestling is your lifestyle. Wrestling is who you are, and for a long time, that's what we hear. And at the end of the day, I preach to my guys. I tell my guys, that's the one thing I believe, I wish I could have separated. I don't know what my outcomes would have been, but it could have been better, it could have been worse. Don't know. But the deal is knowing it's what I do. It's not a life and death situation. At the end of the day, I win for me. Yes, I want to win for myself. I'm competitive. I want to win. But if I fall short, that doesn't mean my life is over. That doesn't mean I'm a disgrace. That doesn't mean I'm, a weak individual. I just fell short. And so teaching young men that, okay, the best time to learn is when you fail, let me correct that, when you fall short. Because I believe a person truly fails when they quit. When they quit. It's all right to fall short. You fail when you quit. And that's why you have numerous matches and duels and tournaments that you get the opportunity to learn, because we all know only one tournament means something. That's nationals. And so that's the tools I want to give my guys, and let them know, hey man, who are you? Who are you? Not what you do, who are you? And teaching that, because I can teach you how to be a national champion, but then 5 years, 10 years from now, the people that you're supposed to be, a good husband, good father, a good person, you're none of those, because I've seen it, and at the end of the day, that's where, I got to decide, hey, this is the assignment that's given to me. Am I being a light for myself, or am I being a light to my Lord and Savior?
Wish I would have known that in 1994, Coach. Coach, at a high level, you've been at the highest of highs for your own athletic career. You've worked with some unbelievable athletes. What is it that really separates kids from a great high school wrestler coming in? I mean, you won as a freshman. What separates good from great and great to excelling at the next level or coming right out of high school?
I tell people the difference between high school and college is the intensity. It's that intensity. And how do you deal with adversity? Because when you go in that room, I was just laughing jokes with coaches today. When we all get in that college room, we got grown men waiting for us. So, me coming in as a top recruit, my class, I had some grown men that been in that wrestling room for 4 or 5 years waiting on me. And so they opened up my eyes real quick. And whether it was lightweight, whether it was middleweight, it didn't matter. So I had to learn to adjust to that adversity, and that intensity. And when I adjusted to it, that's when I started to see myself say, all right, I can do this.
Hey, Coach, you were an all-star on the football field as well, weren't you?
Yes, I remember those days, man. It was a long time ago, man. 135 pounds of me. That was a long time ago too.
Well, we're big on multi-sport athletes, especially, through middle school and youth and even into high school, and how that, breaks up the season a little bit, gives you a couple different looks. What are your thoughts on the multi-sport athlete and how that, is a benefit in terms of long-term development and keeping the athlete fresh?
I think it's good because all you're doing is changing your perspective to another sport. Football's a team sport, so it's teaching you one how to be a team player. Now, if I can go back and evaluate, there'll be some things I do different. You can't praise your lineman when everything's good and then get on them when things ain't going good. People ask me, was I a good team player? I'm like, I will block for my quarterbacks. I'll block for my team. I'll do whatever they need me to do. Just make sure I'm getting my 100+ yards again. So like that had to come with it. And if I ain't getting my 100+ yards, was I throwing a fit, meaning I'm gonna not block? No, I'm still gonna block and still, but I'm gonna be a little angry because at the end of the day, my mindset was always, I want my guys to shine. I want them to be the stars, but I want to be the sun. We still out here, but I want to outshine. I want, in a way, like Toby Keith said, I want them to talk about me. So, but at the end, but when I go back and reevaluate, I tell people, I say, yeah, man, I don't think I was the best team player because I was fundamentally, wrestling was my fundamental, which was, it was about me.
Mhm.
And wrestling, I tell people, it teaches you to be selfish because if you want to go get it, go get it. And football, whatever other teams, you depended on 10 other guys, and it teaches you. I like that because marriage is about teamwork. Yeah, it might start with you, but marriage and family is teamwork, and working with others is teamwork. Yeah, it starts with you with the rest, but it's about teamwork, and so those are things, I like to see in an athlete, if they're a good teammate, um, not just a good individual. And so those are things, I try to teach guys as well that never done those things. It's learning, if you don't want to fight for yourself, fight for your team. Fight for yourself. And if you ain't fighting for yourself. So those are things, I believe the team sports, I look at in athletes as well.
Coach, you mentioned being a good teammate. I will be honest. I was not. When I look back at some of the things I did as a teammate, I was, oh, this is wrestling. This is an individual sport. Like if you're not good, that's
Mm-hmm.
on you, right? And
Right.
you also mentioned you want your yeses to be yes and your nos to be no. So we
Mm-hmm.
know, recruiting, you have a cap. Maybe it's 25, 30. I'm not 100%, but
Mm-hmm.
there's 10 guys on a wrestling team, right? So you're gonna recruit more than one guy at a weight class. How do you bridge those gaps? Is that where that character building comes in where, hey, you might not start for a year or two, but if you're a good teammate, you come in, you put the work in for that guy who's in that starting spot. When it's your turn, you're going to be able to shine, and there's someone who's going to do that for you as well.
Right. And I ask those questions. I say, all right, what's your goal? what are you going to bring to the table to help us get back? Well, I want to start first, and then I'm like, okay, well, what if you don't start? So if you don't start, it doesn't go your way. How are you going to make us better? And I want to hear those from those. I don't want to hear it from the parents. I want to hear it from the individual, because once again, this is history, and I've gotten to work with guys that weren't starters, but they were leaders. People listened to their words. They did all the small things right. So what? They didn't start. So what? They didn't put on their singlet, but they represented the core of what we stood for, and I praise those guys and everything like that. I tell those guys, those are my fun guys to coach, because I don't have to worry about those guys, because those guys are just good people, and from their soul. And those are guys I'm looking for. I know, society puts the pressure on us to coach these winners. I get it. I got it. But once again, who's really winning? Because you might be winning right now, but 10 years from now, you're doing what you're supposed to do, doing what a man is supposed to be. So those are things, like I said, I want to show, and I sit down with guys and tell them that might scare some guys, because all they're saying is show me the money. And so, but I let them know this is who we are and what we're expecting.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that 10-year hindsight. I had a coach that would always say, the things now, maybe it's your work ethic, the little things, being a good teammate, right? That's what's gonna shine 10 years from now, right? Yeah, it's cool to get your hand raised and get at the top of the podium, but when you have to wake up and make a deadline or something like that, what you learn here is what's gonna get you farther down the road. So I appreciate that thought. How did coming back from Fargo? You're on the road right now. I think I heard your hazards
Oh
there
yeah.
at one
Oh yeah.
point. How did Fargo go? How did recruiting go? And how do those conversations go with kids where it's like, hey, we might not have the money now, but if you invest in us now, maybe down the road we will have the money for you.
Once again, I mean, I don't bother these guys too much while they're competing. I didn't want nobody messing with me. I come in, shake their hand, hey, good wrestling, whether you win, lose, draw. And then I try to find them afterwards. Tell them, ask them what they see, and then tell them what I saw, and take it from there. But then I say, hey, let's follow up next week. I know how you're feeling in the moment. I don't want to bother you right now, but I just want to shake your hand, let you know they're watching. You get guys that like, thank you, coach. Most guys I thought you want to give up. Oh, tournaments are tournaments, man. At the end of the day, we're paying attention to the detail. You didn't quit. And we all have bad matches. We all get caught things and this and that and the other. I'm going to see how you're going to react from those things. You're wimping and being a baby about it. Yeah, that could be a turn on for you. Might shake your hand and, start looking elsewhere, but and even if you reach out and I decide to reach out and they're like, oh man, coach, man, yeah, I'm surprised you called me, I said, well, I'll tell them. I was hesitant. I didn't like how you reacted, with that. And at the end of the day, I want you to be a representative of this program. I can't have that. Don't want to see that. You're gonna lose. There's only one dude, maybe two dudes that have gone undefeated in college. We're all gonna lose. So at the end of the day, it's okay to lose. It's not okay to get beat. And many don't get that. And I'm like, no, we all lose. But the ones that get beat are the ones that are dropping their head and just quitting. They're the ones just letting somebody humiliate. No, it's all right to lose. And so those are things I conversate with the recruits and everything. But I try not to mess with them that much while they're in the box.
Coach, I got two more for you. We're in the NIL era. Things are crazy in terms of what people are looking for, what kind of numbers are being thrown around and everything like that. Would you have liked to have come up through the NIL era?
Ah, ah. And even got in ask that. I tell them, that's one thing I tell people. I'm a hater of y'all. I hate I hate on you generations right now. And so yeah, that would have changed the game. Now I probably wouldn't have been up at no OU or OSU if I'm being honest, because I know them coaches wasn't gonna pay nothing. But probably would have ended up at like Sacred Heart or somewhere, where you got it down to somebody that comes through and say, hey, we need somebody to come represent this program. I probably would have went to four different universities too, end up at Sacred Heart one and George Mason the next, and all these schools that you don't get that much. And so yeah, I probably would have ended up at those places. So.
All right. And last one I got for you. Have you been to WeldWorks yet? Are you a beer drinker?
No, I'm not. Everybody clowns me. I can't hold. I can't hold. Like beer just don't taste good to me.
Okay.
I've tried. Yeah, I never was maybe I tasted the wrong beer 20 years ago, and it started with Keystone, and so when I had that was a cheap beer, and I just stayed away from it. And so I used to get clowned. I'll sip on a Smirnoff or a Mike's Hard Lemonade or something like that. But I just never was a beer. I never was a beer fan, and I mean, I think I offset it. People drink beer. I'm more junk food, more cookies and cream shakes, Culvers and cookies, and so I think that offsets.
Okay. Well, you do have one of the best breweries in the United States, right in your backyard now. So if you ever change your mind, check out WeldWorks. It's one of the best breweries in the country, right there
Well,
in
I know
Greeley.
my staff probably will. I can go over there and hang out with them and try something. Try something. I can try something.
They
But
might have
yeah,
hard seltzer.
yeah, yeah. Hey, something give me something to sip on. Yeah. So.
Coach, is there anything about the UNC Bears that we haven't spoke on that you want the audience to know?
No, I mean, obviously, like we did speak on it. It's not to make, we're not making no excuses. We're gonna come equipped, ready to battle from get go, and like losing two guys, losing two All Americans, that wrestling wise is a tough thing. But you never know, maybe that can be a blessing in disguise too. You never know how you click with a lot of those guys that used to be, running one way, and somebody coming in, and everything like that. Um, so you never know. I believe, what happens is they happen for a reason. And so, well, other than that, no, I mean, I'm excited. I'm excited for this year. I'm excited to get to know, some new guys. At the end of the day, like you said, I've been at Binghamton, I've been at Wyoming, I've been at OU. You know, every place I've been in, I still got those guys, four guys that I talk to often. That's and that's athletes. Now they're like I said, they got families, they got jobs. Pick their brains. I see them. I saw a lot of them in Fargo. You come up, you give hugs, and those are relationships you want. Those that's why I got you to do those things. So yay, be ready. We're coming. We're gonna get through this year, and then I'll take it. I'm excited to be in the game.
Rich, I don't know about you, but I'm sold. I'm ready. I'm ready to get back to Greeley at some point.
we've been kicking ourselves in one way or another since we left Colorado. So any opportunity we have, the universe provides with us to get back out west, we will be there, and we will have our Bears t-shirts on for sure.
And I'll be looking forward to shaking you guys' hands because, like I said, hey, you're gonna be speaking highly of us. We like that, and ideal is you hold us accountable. You tell us what you see. I don't have a problem with that. I love construction criticism, constructive criticism. And at the end of the day, that's how you live and you learn. Um, you're just speaking on what you see.
Amen.
Yeah.
Final four, Rich. Let's do it. Coach, are you a coffee drinker?
No.
All right.
No caffeine?
No caffeine. Like I said, I'm
Good
a sugar man,
you.
and I need to break the sugar cycle.
Okay. All right. Coach, do you have any daily practices or rituals you do on a regular basis to show up as the strongest version of Teyon Ware?
Yes. In the word and praying day in and day out. I can tell people, man, my strongest opponent is my flesh. That's the toughest thing I got to battle. And as you see what's going on, many men, that's been our toughest thing is our desires and our flesh. And so, I got to have, the Lord, guide me day in and day out, because pride, which is part of my flesh, can take over. And that's where, God says, don't be a light of me. He don't want me to be a light of him just when things are good. He wants me to shine. He wants us to shine, even more when things aren't going our way, because that's where our faith kicks in. So, like I said, prayer and work daily.
Coach,
and sauna.
all right.
Let's go.
Coach, what are you listening to right now? Music, podcasts, audiobooks? Are you reading anything?
I'm listening to gospel right now, actually. One thing, people that know me growing up, I was all about my music. I'm about music, and I was an R&B. They called me the R&B thug. I loved R&B. I listened to R&B before I wrestled. I didn't want the crunkness, and the hardest thing giving up was, the world of music. It's hard to give up because that's been part of my life for 40 plus years. And so, saying, hey, I'm playing gospel, listening to God's music, and allowing him to speak with me through that, because it's easy for me to, like I said, my fleshly desires, into what I want and what I'm used to.
All right.
Man, Coach, you're talking to me. I love junk food entertainment.
Oh yeah.
I love junk music. I love movies. I
Yeah.
love television. So I
Oh,
feel you
you're
there.
right. You're
Thank
right.
you.
Mm-hmm.
Coach, last one to close it out. It's a lighthearted one. I think we already know the answer to this. You mentioned it. Do you have a guilty pleasure? I know you said sugar, but do you have anything specific? I know you like the Culver shakes. Is there anything other than that?
Man, you give me chocolate chip cookies, you give me cookies and cream shake, you give me pecan pie. Just don't give me no fruit and no sweets. Those are oxymorons. You can't. Fruit is supposed to be healthy. That's not gonna make me feel good about eating it. Giving me fruit with a dessert. A dessert, I need it to hit the soul. Chocolate. Caramello is my candy bar. Everybody knows. Caramello is my weak point. So I think those are the things that make me work out more, because I know I got to sweat that stuff out of my system. Otherwise, yeah, life won't be long. So my deal is that's, like I said, you see some love beer, mine's the sweets. That's my depression music. I'm feeling down, I want to go get me a shake. And
Okay.
my wife sees it, you're like, oh, it's one of those days, huh? Yeah, it's one of those. So
True wrestler at heart, Rich.
Yep,
oh
no
yeah.
doubt. Well, hopefully there's not going to be too many shakes in your future, because the future is bright for the Bears and we're excited for it. We do greatly appreciate you taking time out of your road trip to speak with us about what your vision for the program is. And even though we're not in Colorado right now, we'll be rooting from you from afar. Like I said, UNC Bears is our #1 Division I program that we root for. So we do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to join us, and safe travels on the rest of the route back to Greeley.
Appreciate it, and let's do this again. You let me know.
Absolutely. We'll check in maybe mid-season or something with you.
All right, thank you. I appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that's Coach Teyon Ware from the University of Northern Colorado. Make sure you check out the Bears and see all the great things they got coming up this wrestling season as they get into the school year coming up here shortly. We will be back next week with Matt Gentry from the University of Chicago. He's a wrestling coach. He was also a national champion for Stanford. And then on Tuesday, we're stepping back on the track with Ken Harden. He is joining us from the Auburn national champion outdoor track and fields team this year. So